Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to the session, the special session on health equity in translational research studies. So my name is Patty Spears. I'm a breast cancer survivor and a research patient advocate in the Office of Clinical and Translational Research and the Office of Community Outreach and Engagement at the Lineberg Comprehensive Cancer Center at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And I'll be co-moderating this session. It was supposed to be with Melissa Bondi, but she can't make it. So I'd like to introduce my co-moderator, Lydia Shapiro. And if Lydia would like to introduce herself, she's virtual.
It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Lydia Shapiro. I'm a professor of medicine at Stanford, and where I'm also the associate director of the Office of Cancer Health Equity and Community Engagement, and I'd like to welcome you all to this session.
Thank you, Lydia, and thank you for jumping in and helping us. So at the end of this session, we really hope that you will be able to develop strategic alliances with community partners to improve access to cancer clinical trial participation in diverse populations, also to identify barriers in the collection of biospecimens in underserved communities, and support investigators to implement strategies to increase health equity in clinical trials. Also to recognize organizational factors that promote diversity in the cancer clinical trial workforce. We'll have 5 presentations, one live and the rest virtual, and at the end of the presentations, we'll have a panel discussion where all of the virtual speakers will be available for questions. So as we go through the talks, please submit your questions via Slido. And if you would direct your question to which speaker you want it to be addressed to, that would be great since we have 5. So to kick things off this afternoon, we're going to start with the patient advocate perspective. So we have Vernal Branch, who is a longtime breast cancer survivor and research patient advocate. She has had many roles in patient advocacy, and currently she's a member of the UNC Breast SPORE at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Lineberg Comprehensive Cancer Center. And Ms. Branch will provide the patient perspective on promoting diversity in clinical trial participation and biospecimen collection.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to do this presentation. So as you know, I will be talking about working with patient advocates to promote diversity in clinical trial participation and biospecimen donations. I plan to cover this talk with how we involve advocates, the reason for the advocate involvement, the history of this involvement, and some of the successes of how advocates played a role in clinical trials and tissue donation, and methods that were used for the successful involvement of this recruitment. Why advocate participation is necessary? Well, there's a sense of urgency with advocates, especially if they've been diagnosed with breast cancer. This year alone, in 2021, over 280,000 cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed, and over 43,000 deaths for 2021. So there's an urgency in the advocacy community to try to make a difference. I think we bring a unique perspective to research priorities, making sure that the right research is meaningful for treatment of breast cancer, and it is empowering for us because it makes a difference for the future and ensuring the survival of more men and women diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm going to give you a little background history because in the early 1990s, we were trying to raise money for breast cancer research, but we just didn't want to raise money for research. So the National Breast Cancer Coalition was very instrumental in helping with the development of the breast cancer Department of Defense breast cancer research program. And their motto was a world without breast cancer. It was important that advocates had a seat at the table in what to prioritize for grants, reviewing the grants, and finally, the programmatic funding of those grants. And since then, from 1992 to 2021, over $3 billion has been spent on breast cancer research. So that included over 7,000 awards that were given. MBCC was also instrumental with the help of the Herceptin Phase 3 trial, protocol designed for recruitment of this trial. Collaboration for the first time between advocates and industry in all aspects of the clinical trial, and it went on to show efficacy of the Herceptin itself. Advocate involvement dramatically shortened the time from discovery to market. I think because of this success, some examples I'm going to give are from the sister study, NIHS. Let me see, how can I go back? I need to go back. Can I go back, Patty?
Go to previous slide. I'm going to go backwards.
Yes. I'm sorry, I need to go back to, go back.
Is that where we were?
No, I was, okay. Some of the examples I'm going to give are from the NIHS sister study, and Susan Love's Army of Women and Men, and the UNC Breast SPORE PART program. The sister study was created to really come up with how can we find out why women are coming down with breast cancer. So they wanted to recruit from all 50 states and Puerto Rico over 50,000 women, and actually they got over 50,000 women from 2003 to 2009. And some of the women that they recruited were, 28% of the women were under the age of 50 that were enrolled, and 15% had a high school education or less. 5% were low income, 19% had mothers who had had breast cancer, 20% of the women had early age of menarche under the age of 12, and 64% were postmenopausal. They continue to follow these women with questionnaires and yearly health updates, and they're doing this for over a period of 10 years. And some of the methods that were used to do this recruitment, I talk about, they say over 10,000 organizations and individuals, but we really got out into the community as individuals and went to sororities, union conventions, and faith-based conventions to get people involved in recruiting for the study. And we knew exactly how many people we needed from each ethnic group that we were recruiting from. And we used breast cancer organizations. Most of them were nonprofit. A lot of the work came from, I think that was pivotal for this, was the websites with testimonials from the women who were enrolled in the study, because they came from the communities. There was a personal commitment to find the causes of breast cancer, and it got a lot of national media campaign, radio and print and TV. Presently, I am working with Patty at UNC Lineberger Cancer Institute as part of the breast SPORE. We have a tissue donation program, but to do this, there was a lot of motivation from the patients. We felt like this was a new project, and it was created by the breast SPORE, and we wanted to help streamline the process of tissue donation, partnering with patients. We wanted to share the successes of the research at Lineberger, but improve on the diversity of tissue collection and making it personal, and helping researchers learn more about cancer to come up with new discoveries to prevent and diagnose and treat cancer. And some of the methods that we used were we created this website that could be easily accessible to patients. We created flyers as part of the program, And we did surveys for the researchers to find out what they needed to do to access tissue. And for the future, we're going to have newsletters where patients can give testimonials about their experience with the PART program. And hopefully they can consider themselves partners. The Susan Love Foundation wanted to help researchers recruit patients. And so Susan came to the advocates. And so she knew that we were committed to breast cancer research. So she wanted people of every gender, race, and ethnicity. So fostering more inclusion in different in different ways. She wanted to create a model for fast-tracking breast cancer research. So she wanted to empower the patients with vital information. And over the years, she's already amassed a number of 383 members to the Army, and there's over 300 researchers and 145 studies worldwide have been funded. Some of the methods that she used, she did a really national media campaign on all 3 networks. She used social media and community events where she had team leaders all over the state, all over the United States. So participation in local and state events. And that was a real way to, and she recruited these people fairly quickly. Conclusion, advocate involvement is vital for recruitment in clinical trials and studies of breast cancer. It is personal. There's a sense of urgency for those that enroll in the clinical trials. Social media, faith-based community, sororities, nonprofits have helped with much of the recruitment for the sister study and the Army of Women and Men. Through the PART program, it is empowering patients to be partners within the research.